You're listening to Grounded, the podcast that brings you real conversations with leaders across the food service and hospitality industry. From supply chain strategy and brand innovation to company culture and leadership, we go beyond the surface to tell the stories happening behind the scenes of today's most influential brands. I'm your host, Lauren Mitchell, and each episode is driven by my passion for spotlighting the incredible people who bring hospitality to life and the journeys that shape our industry. Grounded is proudly powered by Buyer's Edge Platform, your partner for data-driven procurement and food service success. Thanks for being here. Let's get grounded. Jeff Chandler is the president and CEO of Hopdoddy Burger Bar, with more than 30 years in the restaurant world. Since joining Hopdoddy in 2016, he's guided the brand through major growth, including its merger with Grub Burger Bar and the launch of High Bar Hospitality. Jeff continues to redefine what the better burger experience can be. Please welcome to the show Hopdoddy's Chief Executive Officer, Jeff Chandler. Thanks for being here, Jeff.
Hey, thank you, Lauren. I appreciate that introduction. It's great to be with you.
Great to have you fresh from the airport. Thank you so much for making it work today.
Absolutely.
Okay.
I'm looking forward to this.
Yeah. Last time we talked, you were actually out about to go hunting with your left eye dominant daughter. How did that hunt go?
You know, it went well for her, not so well for me. She is a great shot. She's a great outdoors person, and she's tough. So she did well. I had fun. I supported her.
I love that. I don't get to hear of many other female hunters. I hunt, as you know, so it's such a great, awesome sport to witness nature happening right before your eyes.
Really
It's one of
is.
my favorite things to do, sunrise or sundown. It's awesome.
Yeah. I love it, and she loves it. And you know, she's always been interested in the outdoors, but she was always our ballerina, and she pursued ballet professionally. And kind of when her ballet career was done, she met a guy, and you know, kind of rekindled her love affair with the outdoors and with hunting. So we're really happy about it.
Oh, that's awesome. Okay, well, I'm excited to get into the brand. We're going to talk about the culture, the leadership that you have. It's been an amazing journey with El Catterton, but I really want to actually go back to your Husky days. You went to school at UW and played football for them. And I think there's a lot of great parallels between people that either were raised in the business and then bring some of those principles into the leadership role, or were competitive in sports as an athlete and kind of make some of those same lessons into the brand they're with today. So I want to start off hot with the Timex story. Can you share what the Timex story is and what you learned from that experience?
You know, so I played under a legendary football coach, Coach Don James, and he came from an amazing coaching tree, and his coaching tree beneath him is incredible. It includes Coach Saban. And he was
Cool.
just an amazing person. And I tell people that I did truly learned more about life in terms of leadership skills and just people aspects. It's really playing football in his program, more so than I did up in the finance school, up in the upper campus. The Timex story is 1 year, my second year. Our first day when we check in, we get our rooms, we get our gear, we get all that stuff. And one of the things we received was a watch. It was a plain, perfectly functioning Timex watch. And on the first day at our meeting, Coach James walks in and he proceeds. The first 10 minutes is how to set and program our watch. And he said, okay, now don't hit the start button yet. I'm going to count down 3, 2, 1, set it. And we all set it. And he said, gentlemen, you have no excuse to be late for a meeting from here on out. For the next 4 years, you know, give yourself the respect, give your teammates respect, give me the respect to be there on time. And what Don James meant by being on time was being 15 minutes early. And, you know, be on time is 15 minutes early. To be, right on time was to be late, and to be late was to be left behind. So we learned that really quick. And it didn't matter how good of a player you were. If you weren't on the bus at 4:01 p.m., the bus left, and it left without you. And he did have meeting times like 4:01 or 3:52, and there was these odd times. In his mind, it was be precise and intentional about what time it is. Don't just say 4 o'clock, right?
Mm.
Say 3:52, and that stuck with me ever since.
Oh, I love that. I love it. There's so many parallels from sport and competitive athletes to bring it into the leadership space. Is there anything else that you've drawn up from your past experience that specifically you've brought to Hopdoddy?
Look, I think it's just teamwork. I think it's just everyone knowing their role, knowing that every role is important. Look, I was a backup offensive lineman. I wasn't the star on the team, but I was critically important, and it was impressed upon me that everyone on the team had a role and everyone was important. No one more so than the next, and I think that was a key lesson that take with me today. I mean, we need everybody on our team to perform, and if we didn't need them to perform, we wouldn't need the role and we wouldn't need them. And so, kind of carrying that lesson forward, it's like, okay, yeah, I might be the CEO, but you, general manager, you're just as important. You perform a role just as important as I do. It's different, but it's just as equally important. And I think we work real hard to make sure that we have a flat organization like that, and we really lead through those expectations of equal importance, just different roles.
Oh, that's awesome. All right, so why don't we get into Hopdoddy Burger Bar? It's a burger, but more than that, it provides unexpected wows, as you have said. And I want to just hear it from you. It's a crowded space, as we all know. What is it that you believe sets the brand apart? And maybe get into a little bit of the ingredient line as it pertains to the actual burger.
So yeah, look, I mean, conceptually, our products built around better burgers, and more specifically, it's around a quality, a uniqueness, a variety, and maybe a convenience and some hospitality in the way in which we serve it that really differentiate us from other folks. We play in the fast casual space, right? So we try to do it a little bit differently, and I think in this day and age, it's really important to recognize that human hospitality is still really, really important. I don't care if you're QSR, fast casual, or casual dining, fine dining. Human hospitality matters. And so I think we try to make sure that we emphasize that in our human interaction touch points that we know that we have every day in our restaurants. So beyond the quality and uniqueness and variety of our food, we take that same approach with our people. And we truly do want unique individual people serving our communities. I have a lot of respect for big companies that, have uniform employment practices and hiring practices and training procedures, and that's great. We take a little bit of a different approach. We want a unique experience. And so we don't script our team on how to greet people, what to say. We just want them to be themselves. And if we do our jobs and we hire right, we hire for personalities, for attitudes, for eye contact, for smiling, then we just say, just be yourself, right? Just we're not going to, we don't have to worry about what words to use. Just be yourself. And that is a little bit of a different approach. And we think it helps make us a little bit more unique and really provide kind of more authentic hospitality, if I can use that word.
Yeah.
And hopefully in that process, we find moments where we can provide those unexpected wows, where people aren't expecting it. Everyone expects it when you walk in the door. Everyone expects it when you leave. Everyone expects it when you walk up to the cashier. But what are those other opportunities to unexpectedly wow somebody? It could be refilling their drink at the table or seeing that they're running low on ketchup and anticipate their needs and give them ketchup. And in our fast casual space, that's just not done. And so we try to find those moments to really engage that provides differentiation.
I love that, the authentic hospitality. I was speaking to another brand last week, and they talked about how this actually shows up in their impact. So, one of the ways that they allow their employees to actually come forward to the brand with a mission or a cause that's meaningful to them, and that's where the brand decides to support in the community. And I love that because sometimes it's just based on, what's in the community, and they've actually turned it inward, where what's impacting or what do our employees what do they
Yeah.
care most about? And then having them make the selections and elections in the immediate community. I just love that. It's a great way to represent, the people in the immediate area. So cool.
Well, Lauren, I think you're so right. And I think one of the things we realized really early on was our core market is really our team members.
Yeah.
right? If we can market effectively and we can tell our story effectively and we can explain the why, right? All the why behind why do we do this? Why do we do that? Why do we buy this beef? Why do we buy that grass fed? What I think if we explain that and it resonates with them and they get excited about it, well, guess what? We don't have to market to the guests very much because our team members are going to do that for us, right? Because they genuinely get excited, and so that's one of our core strategies is really marketing internally. And we have a group of, I don't know, roughly 30 or so team members made up all across the regions, all different roles. But, before we launch anything, we run it by them and say, does this excite you? Does this concern you? We want to know what their reactions are because they're the ones selling it. And if it
Mm.
doesn't resonate with them, it's not going to resonate generally with our guests.
So we've talked about it a little bit already. They emphasize better burgers, quality ingredients, scratch kitchen, craft beer pairing. That's where, of course, they get the name Hopdoddy. But outside of beef, you guys offer another set of ingredients for your burgers, chicken being one. Can you share a little bit about how those are received? I mean, are you seeing an uptick and notice anything outside of just your typical beef burger? And I mean, tell us exactly about the ahi. I mean, I love
Yeah.
what you guys offer in terms of your burger line.
Oh, thank you. Well, look, in addition to, I would call it beef, we have a grass-fed beef option that is different, and we're proud of that option. We do a bison, we do tuna, we do turkey, and we do chicken. And we also have a soul patty, which is our veggie patty, our answer to a veggie patty. And again, that kind of goes to the variety of, within our concept of offering choices for people and giving them the best representation of those choices. And one of them, to your point, is a ahi tuna burger, which is sashimi grade ahi tuna, ground fresh, and pattied and just seared, right? So there's definitely a red line through it, and and it's different and it's delicious. And we've
Mhm.
all had tuna burgers that are tuna fillets that are dry and hard to eat. And so it's just little things like that that I think we've done to celebrate the best of proteins. We're not in here to make any political statements around anything other than, we're proud to serve beef. We're proud to serve regenerative grass-fed beef. We're proud to serve bison, chicken, tuna, like all these things. And, we're going to present them in the best way so that the guest can choose what they want to try and sample. And we're proud of that. And we're proud of promoting, all of those different variety and options. And we really work to make sure that they're the best of those options that we can find. And I think that's one of the things that sets us apart. We're obviously in the business to make money, but cost does not overrule quality, consistency, or brand integrity. And those are really hard decisions because there's financial impact. And we just believe that for us, taking the high road and always sourcing quality, and not cutting corners will pay off in the end.
Yeah, in my opinion, your burger line outside of the beef, the standard beef is what sets you guys apart in addition to the bowl option. I really delight in being able to try a new type of burger. I mean, chicken and turkey are pretty common out there, but the ahi and the sole are just beautiful options and really what I feel like rounds out and differentiates your brand. So kudos
Oh,
to you
thank you.
guys for those
Thank you.
items. Okay, and this is my favorite area. I want to talk a little bit about sourcing and I want to talk about supply.
Yeah.
Do you have relationships with your vendor partners in those categories? Do you go and tour them or do you attend those with your team members? Talk to us a little bit about what it looks like behind the scenes in terms of those partnerships.
Yeah. Look, we're proud of our partnerships and the alignment with our partnerships. And they are true partnerships. And a lot of people say that. Um, But I think, we really look to those vendors as partners because, it's easy to buy on price alone or, to run an RFP process every year, just get the best price and you make a move every year because you're going to source the best, lowest priced option. And we don't look at it like that. We want partners that are going to be with us in good times and in bad. And I'll tell you, COVID was a defining moment for a lot of us in this industry of you saw where your partners were and where they stepped up and where they ran. And, I think it was, so we take a look at that and make sure that, we're sourcing the right relationships with the
Mm.
right products. And for us, it's not about always paying the lowest price. We want our vendors to be successful. We want them to reinvest in their business. We want them to be able to do great things. And we're all in business, and I think if we go into it with a mutual understanding that both of us need to make money and let's go figure out how to do this together, that's always been the greatest, I think, example of kind of what makes it work for us. So, look, I'm personally involved with all of our purchasing. We
Mhm.
have a part-time supply chain purchasing person who works with us, David Wicker, seasoned, very talented guy. And it's he and I, and it's the VP of ops, and it's the VP of marketing, and we make up the purchasing team.
Love that.
We have annual meetings where we bring all of our suppliers in, and half the meeting is, getting feedback. What can we do to be a better partner? The other half is, what can you do to be a better partner? And then we
Love
talk
that.
about the future, where our needs are going and what's important to us, so that they know what we're really trying to solve for and what our parameters are.
I love the well-roundedness of your purchasing team. I mean, CEO, operations, marketing, purchasing, supply chain. I mean, these are all important components to it. Especially, I always just specifically ask, how's culinary involved with your supply chain?
Yeah.
Because I think the two really inform each other. But also, you already mentioned it earlier. You've got the internal feedback loop too from your restaurants in terms of what they're seeing, what they're hearing, and what people are asking for. To support some of those conversations, I imagine, around menu turn and things like that.
Yeah, I mean, culinary is involved from a quality, from a consistency standpoint. It really is our marketing team that goes out and says, "Hey, we've done the research on." I'll say Redbird Farms, a plug for Redbird Farms, or Vital Farms, or Force of Nature, right? These great partners that you know um, they have a compelling story, right? And our ethos is built in parallel with their stories. And so,
Mm.
we identify partners that we'd like to do business with. We test and sample products, and that's really where our culinary team gets involved, is to make sure that the products meet our exacting standards, and in addition to the marketing message, right? And then, like I said, really the marketing message is putting it out in front of our team members who can get excited about what a Vital Farms egg is.
Mm.
And so I think it's through that process that we learn a lot about what the right partner looks like, and what that fit is.
How about approaching decisions around local versus national suppliers? You guys are now in, I think it's 8 states, and it is, a brand like yours that's very has these specific vendor partners and relationships that are important to them. Always a challenge to, scale, have them scale with you, just
Yeah.
in terms of, geography. So, how do you make that decision between local versus national?
Lauren, that's a great question, and it's tough, and it gets tougher every year. There are some suppliers that we've been with that just can't keep up with our volume.
Yeah,
And that's just the reality of some of these small producers. And, we do what we can to stay with them for as long as we can before we have to find something that can provide us that, you know, the consistency part as well as the quality part.
sure.
But where and when we can, we're going to deal with the right partner, whether they're a small local or whether they're a national vendor. Um, that I think a part of our heritage is born out of supporting local farmers and ranchers. And so I think that's still something that's important to us, and we want to support that local ecosystem wherever and whenever we can. But I think, you get to our size, we have to look at those more scalable solutions as well.
All right, backing up out of sourcing, let's talk about really innovation and where this industry is headed. Outside of the internal feedback loop, where do you mine ideas in terms of understanding what could be a trend out there, and an insight, and leaning on some of your marketing teams to actually turning it into whether or not you want to implement a menu change over it? So, kind of a big question, but said simply, what considerations do you make prior to making an investment into the change, like a core menu change?
Yeah, well, love it or hate it, social media is here to stay, and I will say that we do a lot of poking around on various numbers of sites to see what's trending, what's working, what themes are gaining popularity and attention, and really trying to discern between, fad and a trend. Both are important, and we can react to both of them in different ways. But, we have almost more information than we can process. And so I think
Right.
for us, that's our primary go-to is just listening and
Yeah.
looking and observing through social. And then it's, we have kind of our GMs that we put in a place to really act as our eyes and ears in our local markets. And so they will follow certain socials and influencers in their markets. And if something comes up, we let that bubble up and percolate up to our teams on a daily basis. Um, Again, trying to identify between trend and fad. Um, but there's a way to respond to both. So I feel comfortable that we're on that. We probably don't do the best on that. I think being a small company, we do have the ability to act fairly quick. So it
Yeah.
doesn't take, a huge process to implement a new product or ingredient, but we do try to be systematic and pragmatic to some extent. And I know that makes some of our team shudder because they love being opportunistic. But we throw a lot at our operators every day.
Uh-huh.
And I think we've realized coming out of COVID that there's strength in allowing our team members to master our business,
Mm.
and when they master our business, they feel good about themselves and morale is good and they feel like they win, and that translates into better execution and better consistency and better team morale and better retention. And so there's this constant desire for us to change and adapt and innovate, but then there's this controlling equally as powerful force saying, hey, let's just block and tackle. Let's focus on the basics. Let's not jump on every new trend and fad. And so
Right.
for us, what that means is that all culminates 3 times a year. We look at redoing our menus, and we're very intentional about, and it starts with our marketing team that says, this is what we'd like to see. This is what's working well. This is what's working not so well. And then we get our operators feedback on, yeah, we have a hard time, challenging time, doing X, Y, and Z. We'd love to simplify that dish. And so we kind of go through the 4 R's of, reprice, replate, remove, or repackage a menu item. And we do that 3 times a year. And that allows us, I think, a good balance between being innovative and quick to adapt, but also to make our operators feel like, they're masters at their job and that we're not just changing all the time, if that makes sense.
It's a great strategy. I think a lot of listeners are going to learn from that. Thank you for sharing that. Okay, so how about the growth and the current trajectory for growth? Where do you guys decide where you want to go next, and how is your how does the whole High Bar Hospitality Group essentially work with that?
Yeah. So, we're, like you said earlier, we're in 8 states, and we have been primarily growing in Texas, outside of the Grub merger, which really was a merger. And then we decided to rebrand all of those to Hopdoddy
Right.
restaurants. So essentially it was new growth because
Yeah.
we were a new brand going into Atlanta and Florida and Shreveport.
Yeah.
But now, we're trying to stay more disciplined in our approach of growing in concentric circles in our existing market. So
Right.
that means primary growth in Texas. I'll tell you, Arizona, I'm heading out to Arizona Thursday. I think Arizona is a market ripe for growth, and we're going to look to do another few restaurants out in Arizona. And then Tennessee is another market that's performing really well for us that we're actively looking for sites. So we're going to be opportunistic within those 3 states, probably for
Mhm.
the next 5 years of growing, call it 6 to 9 or 10 restaurants a year. But I think in the next 3, 4 years, those 3 states will be primarily most of our growth.
Arizona's a great market. We have a lot of concepts that utilize that as even just the first new or second new state, and then wind up
Yeah.
blooming pretty well just through that market. I don't know what it is about Arizona, but it's a great, great market.
It is. It's growing fast, a lot of population influx, and, so, yeah, it's been good for us. We have 2 there today that do well.
So you mentioned it already, but was it intentional to already to? I mean, was that the reason to acquire Grub? Was that the immediate thought was that you were going to convert them, or did that kind of just happen along the way? Because a lot of listeners have, multi-brand restaurant groups, and that is an interesting way to continue to grow with one brand is through that method, and
Yeah.
sometimes it's not always intentional.
Yeah, it was really born out of coming out of COVID. We made some adjustments, and our business was performing really well. And we were, during COVID, we had shut all of our organic growth down. Right, we just didn't know
Mhm.
where it was all going, and so we shut it down. Coming out of COVID, we didn't have a pipeline, and our business was performing well. And we're like, okay, how can we jumpstart this? And so we did. We kind of went through a process to identify, we wanted to stay in the better burger space. Our first priority would be to do burgers, but we also looked at some, better food players in different segments of the industry. And we came across Grub that was very similar and aligned with Hopdoddy, both in culture and in concept.
Mhm.
And the founder and I hit it off, and he's a really good guy. And, the conversation started with kind of keeping them separate, and then it was like, gosh, what if we just shared best practices and we combined it together under one brand? And that started to make more sense. And so I would say by the time we closed, we were unified in converting them to Hopdoddy restaurants. And for
Nice.
us, it worked well. If you take a look at, the ability to add 20 restaurants in a short amount of time, it was definitely the right thing for us to do. And I will tell you, any merger, any conversion is not without its struggles and challenges.
Sure.
My advice to anybody was focus on the culture and the people first. And
Mhm.
we were fortunate that, we had been given advice. I had been given advice from Brett Schulman of Kava, who was right in the middle of digesting Zoe's. And he just said, hey, Jeff, if you believe in the Hop Dotty concept, it's a better brand and a better fit. He said, you just got to rip off the Band-Aid and you just got to convert them. And so we took his advice. We focused on the culture, but we ripped off the Band-Aid and we just converted. And it took, I honestly, 2 full years to fully digest those and get them running in the way in which we wanted. So it took us
Mhm.
longer than we thought,
Yeah.
definitely more challenging than we thought, but it
Yeah.
was the right move, and I think today we're very happy we did it.
Yeah, some things take time. I think that's a lesson that becomes more and more important to remember in this current time of just instantaneous everything. We have information accessible in the immediate, and there's so many examples of things that just take time. I mean, even just truly seeing how your culture can come alive and be reflected. It takes time as a result of the people just being real and
Mhm.
being transparent enough to show themselves and their hearts inside the restaurant. So. Thank you for sharing that. I think that's a really important insight as well. Some CEO questions before we wrap up with some rapid fire KPIs. So everyone measures the success of their brand differently. For you, what's the most important metric that you're watching to evaluate the health of Hopdoddy?
Turnover. Turnover below 70% per year is winning, and a 90-day retention of 90% or better is winning.
There you go. There you go. Turnover. How about what KPIs are top of mind when you go to expand into new markets?
Yeah, look, obviously we focus on top line sales growth. We want to make sure that we have enough volume there. The brand has proven that we can make money and create a good energy and vibe as long as sales are in our opinion, north of $2.8 million a year. That figure for us is key. That sales number.
In your opinion, what does it take to procure the best ingredients?
You just have to start with a commitment to being true to what's really important to your brand, right? Some brands are built on speed, convenience, low price, convenience, whatever. Ours happens to be built on quality, uniqueness, and variety. And so I think it's just being true to that,
Mm.
not cutting corners for the sake of an investor or, trying to squeeze margins. I think you have to be very careful. That becomes the death spiral. That becomes kind of the evolution of Coca-Cola over time, that they found out that the recipe tweaked over time and all of a sudden it wasn't Coca-Cola. So you have to be very steadfast and protective of your brand.
Yeah. Technology. So as a CEO, I imagine you're getting hit with demonstrations and presentations and or reading articles of what other brands are doing. Is there anything recently that's piqued your interest and either you haven't had too much time to look into, but you're curious about, or that's impressed you just in the last few months in terms of what restaurant tech is able to do or where it's going?
Yeah. So look, there's a lot of cool things on the horizon, and restaurant tech for us always starts with the point of sale system. That you've got to get the point of sale system right before you can do anything.
Mhm.
On a big scale, I'll tell you, AI is very, very exciting for what it can do. Just the insights in terms
Yeah.
of our guest behaviors, their trends, where they live, where they work, where they spend time. All of those insights are going to be meaningful, and it will allow brands that invest in that to be able to market to their core consumers more effectively and hopefully more efficiently. So I think that's exciting. I think all the work on robotics. Look, I think there will be things that can help automate certain cook lines and procedures. I still
Yeah.
believe what I said earlier. It's a human business, and human hospitality is still really, really important. And so I
Yeah.
think to match the technology piece, I would say that brands and concepts, they need to be intentional about where and how they're going to thread in human hospitality. Because
Right.
automation is great. It's going to be here. It is here, and it's not going anywhere. But don't forget human hospitality.
I love that. Have you guys implemented any tools or technology that's actually changed how you're operating the hospitality piece aside, but just in terms of efficiencies, maybe
Yeah.
even the
So look,
training area?
big shout out to Hot Schedules. Hot Schedules has come out with a
Love
predictive
it.
labor scheduling platform
Love
that
it.
is awesome. And it's not the end all be all. You still have to put a little bit of human judgment into it, but
Yeah.
that is allowed our operators to make smarter decisions. And I will say, not to save money on labor, but it makes smarter decisions to have labor there to anticipate the larger business volumes that otherwise may have been missed. So kudos. I think it's not necessarily designed to save money, but that might be some effect. But it's really right people, right spots at the right
Yeah.
time.
Scheduling is a big one. I've heard that a lot. People are still uncertain for this area or that. Some are given some insights and understanding about trends and items that are, popping up and things like that. But scheduling and also just training manual efficiencies seem to be like the top two I keep hearing again and again.
Yeah,
So I
yeah.
think it's interesting.
Training, true.
All right. So, as we wrap up here, I love to kind of cover just some quick rapid fire questions
Yeah.
that, quick from the hip. But again, really keeping in mind that your schedule is always busy and, trying to find a way and method to filter and prioritize on the day to day. So, first one is this: what is currently taking up most of your time?
Trying to determine what and how AI can be embedded into our business to make us smarter.
Awesome. How do you prioritize what to get done today?
Listen to my people and see what their needs are, and my role is to kind of be the grease to makes everything work, and so just listening to people.
Where do you see the biggest opportunity for innovation in restaurant supply chain in the next 5 years?
I think it's in quality control and consistency. I think there's a lot of tech that's missing back in kitchens to help with sanitization and the health and integrity of your food system.
Hmm, love it. I'm going to preload this last question, but as far as people and looking at the labor force that's coming into your restaurants right now, what do you believe to be the greatest need to support our people in the restaurant space?
Well, I think beyond livable, affordable wages, it's healthcare, right? And making sure that we provide great career opportunities for people. I think that this industry has to graduate beyond just hey, they're transient workers mentality, and that has been prevailing for a long time. But I think it's just about trying to find a way for create wages for people that can be sustainable, that they can live on.
That's awesome. That's very true. Jeff, you have been delightful. Loved hearing about your impressions and insights, but specifically, you guys have an incredible thing going over at Hopdoddy. We're huge fans, and just again, so grateful that you carved out time for us today.
Well, thank you, Lauren. I appreciated being here. Thank you. That was fun.
Awesome. You have a great rest of the day. And for those listening, if you've liked this episode, go ahead and share it with a friend. It's just been another awesome conversation on Grounded. That's a wrap on this episode of Grounded. We've covered a lot of ground as we explored what it really takes to run food service behind the scenes. For show notes, highlights, and our latest market insights, visit us at groundedonthepod.com. Grounded is powered by the Buyer's Edge platform, delivering smarter solutions, greater efficiency, and real savings through connected tech, powerful data, and industry expertise. For more information and to get a personal demo of the Buyer's Edge platform, email me at lauren.mitchell@producealliance.com. And if you liked what you heard, subscribe so you don't miss an episode.